So, how exactly do you get your lovely lace yarn from this into a workable manner? And why exactly does it come like this anyway? Well, lace yarn, as you know, has a lot of yardage per pound. So, it's actually easier for the factories to just leave them in a hank, and it's darn pretty. So, and we can fit more in a box, which means you get more, which is good. So, it's going to be in a hank when you get it. You can't knit with it from a hank. This is what it looks like when it's taken out of its little twisty form there. If you tried to knit with it like this, you'd end up with a giant tangled mess and you would be very angry at yourself. So you have to wind it into some sort of usable form. Now there's two ways to do that. You can wind it into a ball or a cake. The difference being a ball has one end. You can wind a center pull ball that's round, but it's a little bit more difficult. I will show you how to do it though. And then a cake you can pull from the center, or you can pull from the outside. And this is generally done on a ball winder or aNost pin. So if you're lucky enough to have a Swift and ball winder, that's going to be your best bet. And the reason is because putting it over the back of a chair or putting it on a friend's hands is going to tire you out, and it's going to increase the chance that you're going to tangle something. Because if you have it hanging over the back of a chair and it's loose, it wouldn't matter so much with 110 yards of worsted weight yarn, but when you have 400 yards of very tangly lace yarn and you get up to go somewhere, chances are the dog is going to chew on it, or somebody's going to knock the chair over, or something's going to happen and you're not going to be able to get the tangles out or figure out where you were. And likewise, if someone had to hold their hands up for as long as it takes to wind a ball of 440 yards, they wouldn't like you very much. So if you have a Swift, it's a good idea to use it. Or try to use two chairs and kind of space them out so you get a really good taut hank, because tension is the key. So if you want to put it on your Swift, make sure you get it really, really nice and tight. And there's going to be these little places here. You're going to need to snip this, but don't do that before you get it on the Swift, because this could be the end of the yarn. Sometimes they're the ends, sometimes they're just an extra piece. So you want to make sure you don't snip it if it's the end. So what you get when you put it on the ball winder, and I'll just show you from here, is you get a lovely little yarn cake. And this is actually a great way to split your ball of yarn if you need to. You can put it on the ball winder, and what you'd want to do is double it over, put it through the little slot here, hold it down, because you're going to want to make sure it stays there, and wind very slowly. With some yarns, the heavier ones, you can wind them a little faster, but you want to wind this slowly because there's going to be a lot of pressure towards the inside of the ball, and the more lightly you wind it, the easier it's going to come off. Now if you wound it too tightly, you'd have a nice little small cake, but you'd never get it off. So you'd end up having to knit from the ball winder, and I don't think you'd like that very much either. So as you can see, this makes a very nice little cake. So separate that there. Now, when you actually have your little cake, I would strongly recommend working from the outside. And the reason being, remember, the inside is the tightest part because it's got all that outward pressure. Well, it's going to hold its shape better. If you take from the outside, you'll still have a nicely formed little cake. It'll just get smaller and smaller. If you take from the inside, all of this yarn on the outside is going to lose its shape and collapse, and you're going to really increase the likelihood that you're going to get a tangle. The other way to do it is just to wind it into a ball. Now this, you can put it on a Swift, or you can put it on a chair if you want to, if you know you can watch it well enough that it's not going to go anywhere. And you can just start by winding it a little bit around your fingers, just like this, and then essentially you take it off your fingers and then just start going like this. Now 440 yards later, you're going to be a little bit tired, so take some breaks, maybe do 100 yards at a time, get up, stretch your fingers, or you won't be able to knit with it when you're done, because it gets a little tough. The other way to do it is using aNost pin. Now I don't actually have one here because I moved too much and I lost mine, so just use a big, thick, slippery type of object. I've got this here, which is one of our lovely Harmony wood needles. I usually use a screwdriver at home, because it's got the handle, which is actually the part that I would wind the yarn around. It's got little grooves in there too, so you can kind of pop it off easily. Now, to use a Nost pin or some other form of winder, essentially you just start winding it around and then wind it at kind of an angle like this, and just keep going at the same angle over and over and over again, and eventually what you saw on the ball winder there, you're going to have a miniature version of it on your Nost pin. And if you keep doing that, essentially you will end up with exactly the same thing that you get on a ball winder. It will take a lot longer, but it's very controlled and you're going to have the same kind of results. And likewise, you'll want to do this very loosely. So once you have everything wound into a ball, you can begin knitting.